Hello, and welcome to Reality Remix, where we talk about controversial topics, current events, and discuss that which has an effect on this version of reality. I'm Dennis, your host, and in recent events, experts are calling for the U.S. to beef up defense against an asteroid impact. While there's no specific entity in the U.S. government, Congress has passed a bill 4 administrations ago to designate such an entity, which has been mostly ignored by the administration. So even though Congress has passed the bill to denote an entity that handles the defense against an asteroid, haven't been done yet. NASA, however, is working on a plan. They want to shoot a rocket at 16,000 miles per hour into the asteroid Dimorphos. It's called the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, and it's scheduled November 4th, which is going to be soon. Haha. With us in the studio as co-host today are Jim. How you doing, Jim?
Doing fantastic, Dennis. How about you?
All right, can't complain. Solomon?
Evening, Dennis. I'm really excited to see that double impact experiment.
Yeah, I know. They say it's not going to harm the Earth. It's not going to really interfere with anything, but I would like to also see them do something about the potential of asteroid impacts. There's supposedly 13 million objects plus counting that could hit us at any time. It'd be kind of nice to know that we have at least something better than Bruce Willis in Armageddon. Also with us in the studio is Anthony. How you doing?
Wouldn't that be the job of the Space Force to be taking care of the asteroids?
Well, the Space Force was only one administration ago, and Congress passed the bill 4 administrations ago, so nobody's picked up the ball yet. Trump did make the first step with the Space Force, and that should be designated to them. However, with the current administration, I'm not seeing much getting done about it. They passed the ball for over, 4 times 16 years, so, they're going to kick the can a little bit further.
Didn't they put it on a back burner and virtually cancel it?
Yeah, they did. It's up to NASA's budget. It'd be nice to see some private sector people get into the works like SpaceX or something like that, to where they build an asteroid bomber rocket where, steel warheads, not necessarily nuclear, but something that has some kick that could go donk and bounce an asteroid out of a near-Earth collision, Let's go ahead and jump into today's topic. It's going to be episode 15, Freedom, Real or Illusion? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness was provided to us by the Founding Fathers as unalienable rights. But is this really freedom? I'm handing this one over to Jim to explain the possibility of illusion in our beliefs. Jim, take it away.
The reason I chose the topic of freedom is an illusion or reality is what we're seeing going on in the world today is really not a whole lot different than it was 2,000 years ago when, the Egyptians held people in captivity, and other countries right now hold their people in captivity. We got millions of people trying to cross the border right now to get away from their, I'd hate to say their captivity, but are we really free? Can we really come and go as the definition of freedom is, to be able to do whatever we please, whenever we please, however we please? Or are we restricted by specific laws that determine whether we're free or not? At one time, if you could go on a talk on a telephone and say whatever you wanted to about anybody you wanted to without being censored or shot down by someone. Now you've got parents who walk into a school, complain about the way the school's teaching their children, and they've got the FBI all up in them. So is our freedom real, or is it just something that we feel we may have but don't? What do you guys think? Do we have real freedom?
Yeah, I
as
would
per,
like to take this back to September 11th, 2001. They passed the Patriot Act almost 2 days after the event occurred. Now, they had to have had the legislation already drawn up, and I'll go into full-blown conspiracy mode here. There's no way you can draft legislation up in 2, 3 days and pass it, but was the whole 9/11 orchestrated? Okay, that is the beginning point to where I see in my lifetime, our freedom slowly degraded away. Okay. The secondary instance is just recently with the pandemic, with COVID, and we were forced to wear masks. That became mandatory. It was no longer you had the freedom to choose. It was for the good of everyone that you must wear a mask. Okay. Back to the Patriot Act, they enacted all sorts of stuff. TSA frisk down, X-rays. Okay. You can only carry a small amount of this and a small amount of that. When in all actuality, the 9/11 was perpetrated by a bunch of terrorists with box cutters, if that's the event you want to follow along with. The box cutters, low technology. So, they use something low tech, and instead of just banning box cutters on planes, they looked for every single possibility whatsoever. You could hide explosives in your lotion bottle that's only 3 ounces. So they had to confiscate that. Currently, in the state we live in, well, I live in anyways, a state of shock most of the time. Anyways, we're allowed we're allowed to get a driver's license that is plain, or we can get the fancy beefed up driver's license that allows us into federal buildings and to travel on airplanes. But you can't travel on an airplane unless you have this new ID. However, 20, 30 years ago, you could just buy a ticket, hop on a plane. There was no checks. You had to be there at your boarding time, and you'd get on the plane, fly to wherever you want. Now there's all these rules and restrictions. So do I say we've lost freedoms? Are freedoms an illusion? What do you guys think?
I'd say to an extent yes, to an extent no.
Okay, what's your con on that one?
They have things in place that say that make us feel like we have our freedoms.
Well,
But
yeah,
do we really?
you're free to go to Taco Bell and get a burrito. That doesn't bother anyone. That's part of the whole capitalism thing there. But are you free to go to JFK Airport and just hang around and for 3 days, live in the lobby? No, they won't. The security will come up. You look suspicious. What are you doing there? What's your business? Do you have an ID? Okay, that's another big topic right there, too. If you get pulled over, the first thing that the police want is an ID. Well, you technically don't have to identify yourself. You are allowed to travel freely, and that goes into the whole straw man thing. We'll do that as an episode one day. But you have to show ID to a law enforcement personnel. Do most people comply? Yes, the smart ones do. People like Jacob Blake, no, they don't comply, and then they wind up, the police take over. Are the police the Gestapos of the World War II, to where they have ultimate power? Do they abuse their power, or are most police officers good?
you don't want me to get on that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Uh,
It's the blue line right there.
because I've been part of the police force, and I know that. Let me put it to you this way, and I'm sure you'll edit it. Rolls downhill.
Well,
And
we're allowed certain words. I don't think
police
that's one
are,
of them.
in essence, the police are less free than we are.
Oh, but
They're
they
held.
have guns. Okay, so how can they not be free? They can enforce the
Go ahead,
law.
police officer. That's a major mistake. The only time you pull that weapon is to fire it now, and you have to be fired upon before you fire it. That's the law. That's the way they're doing it in Ohio right now. They're writing the law that the police officer will not pull his firearm until fired upon. Because to me, I don't know why anybody want to be a police officer today.
Not with all the rules.
1920s, when they could walk around with sticks in their hands, and that's all they had to worry about, and maybe a 32 strapped to their side for a bank robbery or something. it was a different situation. The police officers were part of the community. Now they have become the enemy in some people's eyes.
Okay, well that's where you're talking about the loss of freedoms, okay? We used to be friends with the police officers and know them by name, and they protected us, and now they're not necessarily protecting us. They're policing everyone is a criminal first and not innocent until proven guilty.
Well, you just saw that trial. But anyway, as far as freedom and illusion, and the topic that I brought up was because I'm Native American, our freedoms were the way my ancestors believed was you could not be free without a leader, someone who could maintain and control a situation to keep evil away, if you want it. Let's just put it as evil. You were free to do as you pleased, go, come, whatever, but you always followed a format. And it was normally like, like the wolf. The wolf is so elusive. He's probably one of the freest animals on the planet. That's scientifically based, not by me. That's something I read. That because they come and go and can hide so well, they are never controlled till we start killing them. But they are never controlled. They travel as they please. They eat what they want to eat. They go where they want to go. But they are still governed. There's always an alpha in the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Can we have freedom without our government, or do we need our government to have our freedoms? Are we not born free?
Yes,
Isn't
we
God
are,
given?
but where does the illusion come into play? Where all the laws and dictates that they make in the government and locally that we have to follow, you know?
Exactly. Look at the law library. They said it would take you approximately 100 years for a very, very good reader to read through half the laws
And
in the law.
in that aspect, the average person doesn't have the time nor the desire to read through the law library, but the laws are there, and if you're ignorant of the law, that's no defense.
Exactly. That's why the attorney wrote this law so that you, as everyday ordinary free Joe, would not understand it, and it is his responsibility to protect your freedom by knowing his business. Just like police officers supposed to protect your freedom to come and go, but yet stop that person who's inebriated or under some influence so that he doesn't harm anyone else. But
The whole point is the police officer is supposed to protect and do away with the people that would harm the other members of society.
correct. But doesn't that person who got inebriated at the bar spend his money? Isn't he supposed to be free enough to come and go as he pleases?
As
I'm
long
being
as he's not a threat to the rest of society.
right. I'm playing devil's advocate now.
Yeah.
Think if a man is free enough to go to a bar in public and get drunk in public, he should be allowed to be drunk in public, as long as he's not making life difficult for more than one person.
Yeah, but if you get drunk and hop in your car and drive home and, damage property, run over somebody that's a pedestrian, damage the infrastructure of the city that you live in, that's something wrong there. You should lose your freedoms. It's a judgment call that individuals are supposed to make, and whether they make them wisely or not, that's not part of the issue, I don't really think. It's the illusion at that point that you're free to do that, but you have to pay consequences when you aren't responsible. So then
So,
your freedoms are based upon your own responsibility to the rest of society.
so the reality of freedom is to be as free as you wish, but cause no harm to others. As long as you cause no harm to others, you're free.
Okay, and what you're defining is a law and order system of governance there, to where there's laws, the laws are in place to protect the individuals of that particular society, and the order is you must follow the laws, and everything would be peachy keen at that point. However, that's not how society functions. You do have elements in society, and I'm not being racist here, but anyone could be a bad person, uneducated, careless, reckless, uncaring, whatever, and have a devaluation of life. Okay, so in that point, them people are instantly, if you don't comply with the orders of a police officer and sort it out later, then you are breaking the rules that allow you to have your own freedoms.
Well, now you're stepping out of freedom and into rights or privilege.
And that's the part of freedom that's the illusion, right?
Because there's the illusion. Because the actual definition, Merriam-Webster's definition of freedom, is the power or right to act, speak, or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint.
Yeah, and that's a cut and dry definition that I can agree with. It's when you deviate from that. Okay, so where does the government have to enforce that to keep everything under law and order? Does that mean there's no militia groups out there?
But see, here's the whole thing. How can you act in our society? And I just want to use the United States at the moment, because other countries, they say Europe's free, but it's really not. If you really look at their laws, they're very much more constrictive than we are. But the power or right to act and speak or think as one wants without hindrance or restraint. We don't have that right. Nowhere on this planet, in any continent, under any rules or regulations, other than probably tribes somewhere in the Borneo or something. We don't have these freedoms. Our freedoms are our illusion, because you cannot act, speak, or think any way you want to.
So then what you would like to say probably is that
It's an
it's
illusion.
it's our ability to communicate worldwide that compares all the different societies and comes up with a zero sum standard. Okay, here is the basic rights that every human being has. Deviation from them is unacceptable, and therefore we need the law, we need the order, we need the militaries to blow up other countries that don't follow our dictates. It starts to become this: you have to be the alpha male in the wolf pack for the rest of the world. Is that the mentality that our particular government has?
That's probably another topic for another time, because our government was predicated on freedom,
Mm-hmm.
being able to speak or act or think the way they wanted to without hindrance or restraint.
And we have gotten far away from the what the founding fathers had wanted, I think.
So we are living our freedoms as an illusion. Our young man on here, I'm sorry, Anthony, is 22. Now, 22 years ago, when he was born, this whole country was different than it is now, as he's becoming an adult and becoming involved more in the world action. It's totally different than what I experienced at 22.
And different from what I experienced at 22.
My experiences at 22, I was just out of Nam, really no place to go, but I was free. I could do as I pleased. I could get a job or anywhere I wanted to, and make money any way I wanted to, legally. There's another restraint. I could legally make money any way I wanted to. But now it's come to the point where our government is becoming so strong on wanting to contain us, as knowing exactly where every dime we have, how we use it, uh, our ability to travel from one state to another is now starting to become a restriction. in ways. Granted, we don't have borders on, like I-80 every time you go into Indiana and they're going to check you out, but they do, because when you leave I-80, your car's a picture of it's taken, a license plate and everything. That they know who you are when you enter another state right now on a turnpike or on a highway that has that type of toll system. And a lot
Especially
of
if you're using the Easy Pass system, that just clocks in all your information. This person traveled from A to Z, and
right,
if you're using Google Maps or any of the other navigation programs, it does also log in your position. That's
yep,
only one step away from the government developing an algorithm that logs it into a supercomputer and tracks your very location. But heck,
they
Google
do
does
it.
that with your timeline right now.
They already do it. It's already done.
Yep.
If you buy a 2020 vehicle that has OnStar, like the General Motors OnStar, Ford has another operation. So do the foreign manufacturers. Anytime you've used that, and believe me, it's on. Whether you want it on or not, it's on. They track you. They know exactly who's in that vehicle. Well, okay, if you're traveling with passengers and so forth, they don't. But they know who's supposed to be driving that vehicle before they even stop it. Like a police officer can pull that vehicle over. As soon as he hits that plate, he knows exactly who's supposed to be sitting behind that wheel before he even gets out of his car. He knows where the vehicle came from. He pretty much has every single bit of information on that vehicle, and the person operating it, the owner of the vehicle, has all that information. I've watched it. It's an amazing thing. I mean, it's micro fast. As soon as he taps that last number on that plate, everything about that person comes up. Every single arrest, anything they've ever done. He has it all right there in this.
Okay, so you have the ability to travel around freely, but if you've committed crimes, they log it and they will know about it.
Right. They know who you are. They know you've never committed a crime. They know you never had a ticket. They know you never were speeding or any of that. They already know all that.
Mm-hmm.
No one when they go back with your driver's license, the only reason they do that is to run what they call an NCIC check, which is a national check, and it takes them a matter of seconds to
To see
run
if you have a criminal record.
right, to see if you've ever had any criminal activity around the entire United States.
And then they go into high alert if you had some sort of record on your, the more
Yeah,
entries in the log, the more guilty you are, the more high alert the police officers are on, and the more they're going to erode your freedoms, because instead of being innocent until proven guilty, you are automatically guilty because they read a little log that popped up on their computer screen before they even pulled you over and you came to a complete stop.
exactly.
Yep. Well, we got to kind of wrap up this episode. And if you're liking what you hear, leave a comment below. Thanks for listening. Please hit the subscribe button. Give us a like. It doesn't cost anything. And tap the notification bell so you can stay updated when we release new content. This is Reality Remix, signing out.